understand, So I would think that, for example, when I look at a work where the literal meaning of the image is abandoned, that means if I am shooting a glass and I have lit up in a way where it takes on certain metaphorical extensions, that means that one meaning that the glass has actually transforms into another meaning because I take a certain angle on the glass, the lighting is done in a certain way, the water is reflecting itself in a certain way. It means that the literal meaning of the image has been abandoned and you have gone on to an extended meaning, which could be described by any figure of speech. Metaphor, metonymy being hyperbole, hundreds of figures of speech that describe the transformation of that object into a new thing, a new metaphor. Now, the other aspect of presentation. In my mind, in the presentation, there is no extension. The literal quality of the image is accepted. A glass is a glass. So, I believe that in Bresson, a glass doesn't stand for something else, it stands for itself. When the literal meaning of an image is accepted, then how do you create meaning? Because obviously, the only way that we have understood for centuries is to create metaphors and extensions, that it was something being done, it actually means something else. And now you have something, and I accept the literal meaning of it. How do I create meaning? I believe that when you accept the literal meaning and don't push the image into an extended meaning, then the only way you can create meaning is out of sequence. That has two possibilities. That the sequence is discernible, therefore there is a certain kind of a narrative, and it is because there is something now, something happening now, something happening now. So a shot, as in Basho, will mean nothing. If you look at one shot, nothing. It is photographically nothing. I'm saying nothing meaning it's done like that. But a shot by itself has no meaning. But when it is in sequence, and where the sequence is discernible, it is one kind, and the extreme of that would be that although it is in sequence, the sequence is not discernible. That actually it is made in a way, like in Mizoguchi, you sometimes lose the idea of the sequence. But when the literal meaning of an image is accepted, the only way out, for meaning to come is how shots are joined, one after the other. It is not the Einstein's idea of 1 + 1 making 3. In fact, it is ellipses, the gap between those cuts. The gaps that are between cuts form the meaning. And I believe not just in visual arts, but also in literature and many other areas, there is a very distinct division between representation and presentation. For example, I believe that the great poetry of Basho, the haiku poet, is the kind of poetry that I also admire because in the haiku, the word has no more meaning than itself. It doesn't take on metaphorical meanings in Basho. If you say an old pond, it's an old pond. He's not saying anything more. Then he says the frog jumps. Nothing else. Then he says the sound of splash or whatever, however you want to translate, of water. It's because I say an ancient pond, a frog jumps, sound of water. It's because of the sequence that suddenly a new experience comes into being. And this is the kind of presentation that I'm talking about, that there is even in literature. But literature, as cinema, as painting, is normally only preoccupied with representation, with metaphors, metonymy. I feel as if the whole sky is coming, or some, you know that, it happens in poetry of all kinds, in all languages. But to my mind, Basho was exceptional. Never ever will you find in his haiku that the word abandons, its literal meaning and takes on an extended meaning.